Hello and welcome into another edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider Podcast. And my name is Kevin Hicks, and I'm your lead beat writer for the Arizona State Sun Devils on SI and your host of this daily Insider Podcast. And I'm so grateful to be joining you once again on this beautiful Monday morning. We are roughly a week removed from Randy Bennett being named as the head coach of the Arizona State men's basketball program. And that is going to be the main topic of discussion in today's show. Um, some big revelations have come out over the last 12 hours or so, which have pointed to the direction that the Sun Devils are taking in terms of filling out this coaching staff. It seems like all is well for the moment in Tempe, and uh, another St. Mary's player entered the transfer portal, which makes it interesting, particularly in terms of what Arizona State um, uh, could potentially look at in the transfer portal. Uh, we'll talk about Andrew McKeever a little bit in later in the episode, but right now I want to talk about the reported hirings that are being made uh, by Randy Bennett, which all of them I think are exceptional. So Chris Karpman of Sun Devil Source reported last night. Reports came out that Rick Croy is being hired as an assistant head coach on Randy Bennett's staff. And it got followed by this morning when Chris Cartman reported that David Patrick and Joe Rahone are also following him to fill out the staff. So, um, let's unpack that a little bit and see what that means for the other potential candidates to be on the staff. So, by my guess, I believe that there will be 4 to 5 assistants on the staff, and 3 of them have already been filled. Does that leave room for a guy like Derek Glasser? Does that leave room for holdovers on the staff, such as a Nick Irvin or a Ty Amundsen? Nick Irvin has a very good relationship with players. He's very good tactically, uh, very well respected. Ty Amundsen has ties to the high school scene in Arizona in terms of he uh, I forgot what the recruit's name is, but followed him to Millennium from Higley um, before he ended up leaving for Arizona State. So there's potential recruiting advantages with keeping Ty Amundsen. We'll see what happens with that. But as for the hirings that were made, Rick Croy, I don't know how much better you could get for a lead assistant in that role. Um, he coached at St. Mary's with Randy Bennett from 2010 to 2013. And if you have been following his son, J. Rob Croy, flipped from St. Mary's to Arizona State last week when Randy Bennett took the job, just less than a day after it was officially agreed upon. So there's a lot of movement there. And Rick Croy was the head coach at Cal Baptist for 13 seasons, saw them make the transition from D2 to D1, saw them compete with Kansas in this last NCAA tournament. And by all accounts, he is a great person, uh, good at cultivating relationships, great at connecting with players, very solid tactically. There's not many holes that you can poke into his approach as a coach. And same with David Patrick. He has head coaching experience as well. Although it didn't go as great, he did coach at Sacramento State for 2 seasons, I believe. He's been an assistant head coach under Randy Bennett, another common denominator there. I believe he was there from '06 to 2010. He's also coached under uh, accomplished head coaches such as Eric Musselman, Matt McMahon, um, and several others. So another great pick up there. And as for the Joe Rayhan uh, following Bennett to Tempe, that was assumed to be the case since last Monday. I believe Bennett came in to officially enter Tempe on it was either Monday or I think it was Tuesday when he officially got here. Rayhan followed him, was came on the plane, so I think that that has been in the works for some time. But that's another big addition that um, he played under Bennett at St. Mary's, and he's been a close confidant on that coaching staff for a while. Uh, Pretty interesting that he decided to follow Bennett to Tempe instead of staying with Mickey Mitchell to be on the St. Mary's staff. That will be interesting to follow. But uh, the three main takeaways from this process, one, Randy Bennett very much values high level, high leverage experience. That was one of the biggest points of contention with the Bobby Hurley era in Tempe was that Hurley would hire assistants that didn't have previous head coaching experience or high level experience as an assistant. A lot of the assistants were hired more for recruiting purposes than coaching purposes, at least perceptually. And it really didn't get resolved to a high degree until this last season when Nick Irvin got brought in 2 seasons ago. When you brought in Ty Amundsen, even though he was only a high school coach, he had the clear translatable principles uh, that you could look to um, in terms of making that transition to college. Ty Larson, I mean, he just got a head coaching position with a junior college, so he's obviously well equipped to. But for a large part of the Hurley era, he went with upside over a known commodity, and now Randy Bennett has a plethora of experience around him. The experience is going to be a big deal. These guys know what they're doing when it comes to player development, when it comes to uh, recruiting talent, when it comes to connecting with players, when it comes to finding international talent. Um, I think that that's another big thing. Uh, David Patrick, that's my second point. David Patrick grew up in Australia. He played a big role in landing a player such as a Patty Mills from Australia during his time at St. Mary's. He understands the international market as well as Randy Bennett does, and all these international ties and St. Mary's ties lead me to believe that on top of the experience, that continuity is very much so being emphasized to a very, very high degree. Um, we all know Randy Bennett is one of the best coaches in the business at identifying and bringing on international talent. And I think that that's going to continue. I think we saw what that can accomplish when Bobby Hurley tried that this last season with Noah Mayusin and Masamba Diop and others. Um, I think that there's a good chance that that only advances under Randy Bennett, especially with the coaching staff that he's brought in. So, one, experience, two, international ties and continuity, previously being familiar with these coaches. And then three, I think that there has to be a question in place as to whether um, any of these coaches will be labeled as a coach in waiting. I wonder if Rick Roy will be because I mean he gets to coach his son for 2, 3, 4 seasons, but there's a I mean being an assistant coach for a power conference team is a big deal, but at the same time, giving up a head coaching post is taking a leap of faith in a lot of ways, uh, especially when he's meant as much to Cal Baptist as he has. So I feel like there has to be a bigger picture reasoning beyond just coaching J-Rob in Tempe. Uh, that would be a pretty awesome succession plan. I still think Derek Glasser has to be in that conversation, though. Uh, I think you have to at least consider bringing him on as an assistant. Like I said, there's probably two or three more spots to be filled. I think Nick Irvin and Ty Amundsen have to be considerations as well. And that, and to piggyback off of that into my last point, Andrew McKeever entering the transfer portal averaged, I think, 7 points and nine or so rebounds a game, was one of the most effective rim protectors in the West Coast Conference. Does he become a potential target, knowing that all of these coaches with familiarity uh, of his game, does he become the target and does he replace Masamba Diop? That's another conversation to have another day. It is interesting. And ultimately, we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks or so. I hope that all stops are put in to keep the job in Tempe, but we'll see. Until then, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider podcast. And I will see you with another episode tomorrow. Thank you so much.